everybody, and this is Narendra, and we from NRK Academy are back again with one more very beautiful story. And this is an Assamese story today that we're going to read out to you. This is in 3A of AP State Board, SSC State Board, 10th class. So this story is called The Journey. The Journey. This is an Assamese story. And in India, there are a lot of people who live on the hills. They're very poor. They come from tribal societies. And sometimes one of them gets a job or studies very hard, or their parents do a lot of sacrifice. And he goes into the city. This story explains very, very beautifully and heart-touchingly the difference, the way, the distance that comes between one way of living in the tribal world, the other way of living in the city, and the delicate way he has shown the difference. This is an Assamese story, and let's start the story. The journey. After spending a leisurely Sunday at home, the very thought of returning to work on Monday is tiring. It's clear. After spending a leisurely Sunday at home for anybody, the very thought of returning to work on Monday is tiring. Lethargy. Lethargy means laziness. Lethargy. Lethargy. Lethargy creeps in, gets into you, creeps in. If the holiday continues over an extended period, over a longer period. That is how I felt when I was preparing to return to my place of work after spending 6 months at home. So this author, person is in first person, he spent 6 months at home. The fact that I was to leave behind my newly-wed wife and go to a far-off place did not help either. So even that did not help me, which means that he was not feeling good about it. Obviously, I did not want to go. However, I finally did decide to go. I did not have much to carry by way of luggage, just a trunk, a big suitcase-like thing which is made of iron. Ours is a hilly terrain. Ours is a hilly, they live in hills terrain without any motorable roads. Motorable, you can't have a vehicle there. And there is no certainty that we are ever going to have any roads. So even, the government or anybody, they can't lay roads there. There's no proposal like that. In any case, while coming home, we do not carry bedding. Bedding means big beds. Besides, I had come home this time round for a special purpose, to get married. So he had taken a 6 months leave to get married and to stay with his newlywed wife. My parents had arranged my marriage according to the customs of our tribal society. So this author comes from a tribal society. My parents had arranged my marriage according to the customs of our tribal society. Time flew. And 5 months into my marriage, I realized it. Initially, I thought of extending my leave. He wanted to extend his leave. Even taking unpaid leave. He was interested in not even taking the salary. But after some dilly-dallying means should I not. So I finally decided against it, not to take extended leave, because marriage had increased my responsibilities and I had got into debt. So they had taken a lot of loan, so he had to go back to his job. On my way home from the bus stop, my trunk had been carried by a porter. So that time when he had come earlier, there was a porter, somebody who carried. He gave him money. The problem now was that we could not find anyone who could help me carry the trunk to the bus stop. At another time of the year, we would have easily found someone to help me. But now, most of the villagers were busy in the fields. So it was like harvesting time and everybody was busy in the field. Nobody had time to spare for me. Time to spare, time to give, spare for me. In fact, carrying the trunk should not have been such a worry for me, except, this is a crucial point, except that my education had made me shun physical labor. Shun. I can't carry things. That became his, habitual thing because he was educated. So he didn't want to carry things. After all, I was a government officer, and the idea of people seeing me carry my own luggage was not at all amusing. So he didn't want people to see that he was carrying his own luggage. Otherwise, for a young man like me, it should not have been an issue to carry a 20-kilo chest on my back. So it was a 20-kilo trunk only, and it was not a difficult thing to do. But what was coming in between? His education. That is what delicately the author has shown of that kind of feeling of the separation which comes when you go away from your roots and go into a city life. Finally, my father came up with a solution. Don't worry, I myself will see you off at Dirang. Dirang was a nearby town from where he could get a bus. I protested. No, you can't do that. How could I allow my old father to carry my trunk? What would people think? What would they say? But I failed to dissuade him. Dissuade is the opposite of persuade. Persuade means telling a person to do what you want him to do. But dissuade is telling a person to not do what you don't want him to do. It was decided that father would carry the chest. The father would carry the chest. Chest here doesn't mean chest. Chest here means trunk. This is another meaning of the word chest. A large crowd gathered at our place the day I was to leave. People had come to wish me luck. It was 10:20 when I left for Dirang. My father had already left. So my father was already on the way. As I had to do a bit of catching up, I walked fast. 3 kilometers down the road, I caught up with my father. Father said, "You are late. Would you like to rest for some time?" So the father was very concerned about his son. Having walked fast, I was tired. Moreover, I had to cross 2 hills on the way up to the spot. I quickly sat down on a rock. My father laughed at my plight. My father laughed at my plight. Like he was very concerned about me, and yet he was amused that about the author, that he was not able to even take that much of pain. So this little distance has tired you, he says. Rest for a while, but we have to be in time for the bus. Father was quiet for some time. He thoughtfully looked at the sun for a moment, and then his eyes fell on the can of homemade wine that I was carrying. Wetting his lips with his tongue, he said in a matter-of-fact manner, "I'm thirsty." I gave him the can of wine. He poured himself a mug and handed me the can. He drank all of it at one go. He then arranged the belt that was attached to the trunk carefully on his forehead. So, you carry the trunk with this forehead, the belt like this on the forehead. So this was the picture. My father carrying my luggage on his back and me following him with a tiny bag in my hand. So here, the author is not making any judgment, but see the delicacy with which he is communicating that a father is carrying and the son is not carrying luggage. That's a very stark contrast. Actually, the son should carry and the father should not carry. So that delicate emotion has been clearly revealed here. We were walking up a narrow hilly road, and neither of us uttered a word, as if we were strangers who spoke different languages. Here, see the power of the language here. Neither of us spoke a word. It was as if a great distance had come between the father and the son. I did not know what was going on in his mind. From time to time, it crossed my mind that it was improper, he knew, for me to let father carry the luggage. So it was not correct on my part, he feels, to let father carry the luggage. I wanted to tell him that I would like to carry the trunk myself. But, now this is a crucial sentence, my guilt and my shame did not allow me to do so. So it has become part of him that being educated, he should not carry luggage. Even his father can carry, he should not carry. This self-consciousness had probably to do with my education, the white-collar job that I had, or quite simply my pride. So, people who become educated, they say, no, I don't want to do these things, and I don't want to do that. He has brought out so beautifully, in such a simple way, the author. Somehow, I had the feeling that if I carried the luggage, my father and my people, in fact, the whole world would laugh at me, and I would be belittled I would become less than what I am. Father had provided for my education, and I had been able to realize my dreams. So his father had struggled really hard to give him an education. My parents were truly proud of me. It was through me that they had earned a greater degree of admiration and respect from the villagers. So obviously because of their son, the father had got that great respect. Oh, your son is so great. My father would not like to see me carrying a trunk on my back and would be very hurt if I did so. So look at the sentiment here. Actually, a father should carry the trunk. But his father would have been hurt simply because his son is educated and he has a job. So that kind of a, I would say, unnecessary, uh, you know, the pride we have for jobs, the pride we have for white collar jobs, the poor, rich, the difference, all this is laid out here for us to see. The father carrying the luggage of the son. And the son, on the one hand, knowing it's wrong, but also feeling proud that he should not carry the luggage. And even the father feeling the same thing, that he should not allow his educated son to carry the luggage. My father would not like to see me carrying a trunk on my back and would be very hurt if I did so. I concluded that it would be better to let him carry it. Father was used to carrying luggage anyway. He was stronger and more skilled than me in these matters. I had never got used to physical labor, having stayed in hostels right from my childhood. So, in spite of my youth and strength, I was physically useless. I continued walking silently with father. We rested at two places on the way and had our tiffin, but we hardly talked. Finally, we reached Dirang. So finally they reached Dirang. The bus from Tawang had not yet reached the Dirang, and so we had some time in hand. We entered a tea shop and sat facing each other. Father appeared tired. I felt sorry for him, but couldn't bring myself to say anything. He could not even say anything to his father. There was a gap. I asked the waiter to get us 2 cups of tea. Just as I was going to take my first sip, I heard father's voice. Do you have a pair of old shoes? Why? I asked. The road is uneven and full of pebbles. It hurts while walking. I looked at father's bare feet, no slippers. Never having worn shoes, his feet had developed cracks and somehow resembled those of an elephant. I noticed this for the first time. I hadn't noticed that the road was uneven. I didn't have to since I was wearing a pair of hunting boots. I checked my wallet and saw I still had around rupees 40 with me. A pair of canvas shoes would cost around rupees 12 and the remaining amount would be enough for me to get to Bomdila. My father protested me, said, no, give me an old pair. You don't have to spend money on new shoes. I couldn't convince him to buy a new pair. Reluctantly, I gave him the hunting boots I was wearing. Reluctantly, I gave him the hunting boots I was wearing. I then took out my pair of leather shoes from the trunk and noticed my father's face lighting up with contentment. So his father was very happy. Suddenly he looked at me and said, take care, write to us. That's all he said. The father said, take care, write to us. Father wanted to say something. He wanted to say something. There's a distance. But the bus started moving. I saw my father gradually receding, going back, receding into the distance. I saw that the road we had come by looked like a giant motionless rope. It was like a rope, giant motionless rope. Father would use the same road to go back home. Simultaneously, our journey started in two opposite directions, with me seated in the luxurious seat of a bus and father walking back with weary legs, tired legs, on the pebble-strewn road, S-T-R-E-W-N. Strewn means all thrown up there. Pebble-strewn road. So this is a very beautiful story by Yeshe Dorjee Thongchi. It is an Assamese story. And in this story, especially if you read it again, you will feel it. The distance of certain symbols, educated, uneducated, rich, poor, the pride of son, the distance that had come between father and son, uh, is hauntingly, almost heartbreakingly, and so silently communicate. They don't talk in the journey. It's just a small incident of his carrying the trunk. That's it, and his having not having the shoes. But that's all has been told in the story. But how much more the author was able to communicate? That we all have these notions. Rich, poor. This is very common in India. A father who is not very educated feels inferior to his own son, and his son should not carry luggage, but he should carry luggage. This kind of absurdity, this kind of strange distance that comes between people has been portrayed very remarkably by Yeshe Dorjee Thongchi. And Yeshe Dorjee Thongchi is a prominent name in Assamese literature. He grew up in poverty, but he entered into the civil service, and he went finally into the administrative service. So he's also a novelist, and he won the Sahitya Academy Award in 2005. And mainly he has written many books and stories on his tribal society and the way he looked at them. But though the story is about a tribal society, more widely, it's a story about human relationships. I hope you enjoyed the story, it touched you, you felt something stirred within you. And this is NRK Academy signing out. We will meet again with another wonderful lesson. Thank you so much.